Lack of money is not about money. It's about how you feel about your own worth. I know this sounds impossible right now, especially if you're lying awake at 3:47 in the morning calculating bills, but stay with me. What if I told you that every single financial struggle you've ever had was actually your heart asking to be loved differently? I see you, dear one. I see you checking your bank balance obsessively, feeling that familiar knot in your stomach when the numbers appear. I see you avoiding conversations about money, pretending everything is fine while fear whispers constantly in your ear. I see you working so hard, trying so desperately, yet feeling like abundance is something that happens to other people, something you watch from the outside, pressing your face against the glass of a life you believe you don't deserve. But here is what I know about you that you may have forgotten about yourself. You came into this world worthy of every good thing. Somewhere along the way, someone convinced you otherwise. Maybe it was a parent who said money doesn't grow on trees. Maybe it was a teacher who made you feel small. Maybe it was just the world itself, grinding away at your natural sense of deserving until you forgot that abundance is your birthright. Place your hand on your heart right now. Feel that rhythm. That beat has been faithful to you since the moment you took your first breath. Your heart has never once questioned whether you deserve to keep beating. It simply beats because you are alive, because you are here, because you matter. Yet somehow, we've been taught that survival requires earning, that love requires proving, that abundance requires perfection. Let me tell you about Magnolia. Yes, that was her real name, given to her by a grandmother who believed beautiful things deserved beautiful names. Magnolia came to me after 43 years of financial struggle. She was intelligent, hardworking, kind. She had 2 master's degrees and worked 60 hours a week. Yet she lived paycheck to paycheck, always one emergency away from disaster. Every morning at 5:47, Magnolia would check her phone before her feet touched the floor. Bank balance first, then bills, then a mental calculation that left her nauseous before she even started her day. She told me she could taste copper in her mouth from the anxiety. Copper and something bitter, like old pennies left in rain. But here's what Magnolia discovered, and what changed everything for her in less than 21 days. The problem wasn't that she didn't know how to manage money. The problem wasn't that she didn't work hard enough. The problem was that deep in her subconscious mind, she believed she wasn't good enough to have money, not smart enough, not worthy enough, not deserving enough. She had been carrying her father's voice for 4 decades. He used to say when she asked for anything, "Money doesn't grow on trees, and neither do spoiled little girls." She was 8 years old when those words carved themselves into her heart. For 35 years, every time money came toward her, that little 8-year-old girl inside would whisper, "Spoiled little girls don't get to have nice things." The morning everything changed, for Magnolia started like every other morning. 5:47, phone in hand, that familiar taste of copper. But instead of checking her bank balance, she placed her hand over her heart and said 7 simple words. "I am worthy of financial abundance now." She said it 3 times, and something in her chest cracked open. Not broke, opened, like ice melting, like a door that had been locked for 43 years, finally accepting the key. Within 72 hours, Magnolia received an unexpected check for $937 from an insurance refund she'd forgotten about. Within 2 weeks, her boss offered her a position she hadn't even applied for, with a salary increase of $18,000 annually. Within 6 weeks, she was sleeping through the night for the first time in decades. Within 3 months, she had saved more money than she had in the previous 5 years combined. But the real miracle wasn't the money. The real miracle was watching Magnolia walk into a room and occupy space like she belonged there. The miracle was hearing her laugh without calculating the cost. The miracle was seeing her buy herself flowers because they were beautiful, not because they were on sale. If this resonates with something deep in your heart, if you feel that familiar ache of recognition, I want to invite you to take the gentlest step toward your own healing. Consider subscribing to this channel, not because I need you to, but because you deserve to be reminded weekly that abundance is your natural state. You deserve to hear, again and again, until you believe it, that you are worthy of every good thing life has to offer. Right now, as you feel whatever is moving through your chest, whether it's hope or skepticism or that dangerous feeling we call possibility, take a moment to honor that feeling by sharing it. Go down to the comments and tell me what emotion is arising for you right now. Not what you think you should feel, but what you actually feel. There's no right answer here. There's only your truth, and your truth is what will set you free. The woman who worries constantly about money is not broken. She's not wrong. She's not foolish. She's simply carrying beliefs that no longer serve her, if they ever did. She's been trained to believe that worry is preparation, that anxiety is responsibility, that fear is wisdom. But worry has never created a single dollar. Anxiety has never balanced a budget. Fear has never opened a door to opportunity. What creates money is the same thing that created you: love, appreciation, the recognition that life is abundant because life itself is abundance. Look around you right now. See how the universe gives air freely to your lungs, light freely to your eyes, gravity freely to your feet. Nature doesn't charge rent for sunsets or license fees for bird songs. Abundance is the natural order of things. Scarcity is the learned exception. You were not born worried about money. You learned to worry about money. And anything that is learned can be unlearned. Anything that was taught can be untaught. This is where we start, not with budgets or strategies or techniques, though those have their place. We start with the recognition that your relationship with money is actually your relationship with yourself. When that relationship heals, everything else follows. Now we're going to do something together that might feel strange at first, but I want you to trust me. I want you to trust yourself. What we're about to create is a new neural pathway, a new way for your brain to experience the concept of money, not as threat, not as scarcity, not as something you have to earn through suffering, but as something that flows naturally when you remember your worth. Place your hand over your heart. Yes, right now, as you're listening to this. Feel the warmth of your palm against your chest. This simple gesture is telling your nervous system that you are safe, that you are supported, that you are cared for. Your body has been living in survival mode around money for so long that we need to remind it what safety feels like. Close your eyes if you can. If you can't, soften your gaze. Take a deep breath in through your nose, counting slowly to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold that breath gently for 2 counts. Then exhale through your mouth for 6 counts, releasing everything that no longer serves you. Let's do this 2 more times together. Breathing in safety, breathing out fear, breathing in worthiness, breathing out doubt. Now, with your hand still on your heart, I want you to say something that may feel impossible at first. I want you to say, I deserve abundance. Say it as a whisper first, so quietly that only your heart can hear it. I deserve abundance. Feel how your body responds to those words. Notice any resistance, any voice that wants to argue. Don't fight the resistance. Just notice it like you would notice a bird flying past your window. Now say those same words in your normal speaking voice. I deserve abundance. Feel the vibration of those words in your chest. This is not about convincing your mind. This is about giving your body a new experience, a new frequency to attune to. Your mind may doubt, but your body knows truth when it hears it. One more time, with all the authority you can muster, as if you are speaking on behalf of every woman who has ever felt unworthy of good things. I deserve abundance. Feel that declaration echo through your entire being. This is not arrogance. This is recognition. You are not claiming to be better than anyone else. You are simply remembering that you are not worse. Can you feel something shifting? Maybe it's subtle, just a softening around your ribcage. Maybe it's stronger, a warmth spreading through your chest. Maybe it's resistance, your old programming trying to pull you back to familiar suffering. Whatever you're experiencing right now is perfect. Your body is responding to love, perhaps for the first time in years. The sensation you might be feeling is expansion. For so long, your relationship with money has been one of contraction, tightening, withholding, protecting. But abundance is an energy of expansion. It breathes, it flows, it trusts that there is enough and then some more. Some of you might be feeling emotional right now. tears perhaps, or something caught in your throat. This is not sadness, though it might feel like it. This is relief. This is your soul recognizing something it has been waiting to hear for decades. Your tears are not weakness. They are your heart's way of saying, finally, finally, someone is speaking my language. Now, while this feeling is moving through you, while your nervous system is remembering what safety feels like, I want you to comment below with whatever is arising. What are you feeling right now? Is it hope? Is it fear? Is it that dangerous feeling we call possibility? Share your truth, because your truth is what heals. And when you share your truth, you give other women permission to share theirs. Let me tell you about Prudence. She was 67 years old when she first did this practice with me. She had been worrying about money since she was 12 and heard her parents arguing about bills through thin walls. For 55 years, Prudence had equated financial security with being a good person and financial struggle with being somehow defective. When Prudence put her hand on her heart and said, "I deserve abundance," she immediately started crying. Not gentle tears, but deep, body-shaking sobs. She told me later it felt like 55 years of held breath finally being released. The little girl inside her who had been holding her breath, waiting for permission to want good things, finally felt safe enough to exhale. Within 1 week, Prudence started sleeping better. Within 2 weeks, she received a call about a part-time job she had forgotten she'd applied for. Within 1 month, her adult daughter, with whom she'd been struggling financially, offered to help with her expenses. But the real shift wasn't in her circumstances. The real shift was in how she felt about deserving those good things when they came. This practice we just did together, this simple act of placing your hand on your heart and declaring your worthiness, is not just a feel-good exercise. It's rewiring. Every time you affirm your worth in the presence of your own loving touch, you're teaching your nervous system a new story. You're creating new neural pathways that associate money with safety instead of threat, with love instead of fear. Your subconscious mind has been running old programming for so long that it thinks struggle is your identity. But you are not your struggle. You are not your financial history. You are not the story of scarcity that has been playing on repeat in your mind for years. You are a divine expression of abundance itself, temporarily forgetting your true nature. Do this practice every morning. Before you check your phone, before you think about bills, before you let the world tell you who you are, place your hand on your heart and remember who you really are. A being worthy of every good thing. A woman deserving of abundance in all its forms, not because of what you've done, but because of who you are. And if the old voice tries to argue, if it whispers that you're being unrealistic or greedy or naive, smile at it gently and say, "Thank you for trying to protect me, but I choose love now." You don't have to fight your fears. You just have to choose love more often than you choose fear. That's how transformation happens. One choice at a time, one breath at a time, one moment of remembering your worth at a time. There's something profound happening here that goes far beyond positive thinking or wishful manifestation. What we're accessing together is the fundamental law that governs how reality forms itself around our deepest beliefs. Louise Hay spent decades understanding this principle, and what she discovered changed millions of lives, including her own. Your mind is not separate from your experience. Your thoughts are not disconnected from your circumstances. Every belief you hold about yourself, especially the unconscious ones, broadcasts a frequency that life responds to with mathematical precision. When you believe, deep in your bones, that you are not worthy of abundance, life arranges itself to prove you right. Not because life is cruel, but because life is infinitely responsive to your inner state. Think about this for a moment. Every single person you know who seems to attract money easily, who moves through the world with financial confidence, has one thing in common. They fundamentally believe they deserve good things. It's not that they're smarter or luckier or more deserving. It's that somewhere along the way, they internalize the truth that abundance is their natural state. The women who struggle with money, no matter how intelligent or hardworking or kind they are, carry a different frequency. Somewhere in their subconscious programming is the belief that they are not enough, not smart enough, not worthy enough, not deserving enough. These beliefs usually formed in childhood, when we absorbed the financial fears and limitations of the adults around us without any conscious filter. Your brain is incredibly plastic, constantly rewiring itself based on repeated thoughts and experiences. Neuroscience has proven what Louise Hay intuited decades ago, that we can literally change our brain structure through conscious practice. Every time you affirm your worthiness, every time you choose love over fear, you're creating new neural pathways that support abundance rather than scarcity. But here's what most people don't understand about this process. The resistance you feel when you first start affirming your worth is not evidence that it's not working. It's evidence that it is working. Your old programming is sensing the threat to its dominance and fighting back. The voice that says, "Who do you think you are?" or "You can't just think your way to money," is the voice of your learned limitations, not the voice of truth. Let me share what happened with Cornelius. Yes, a woman named Cornelius, named after her great-grandfather, who immigrated with nothing but determination. Cornelius had been in debt for most of her adult life. She was brilliant, had multiple degrees, ran a successful consulting business. Yet somehow, money seemed to slip through her fingers like water. She could earn it, but she couldn't keep it. When Cornelius began this work, the first thing she noticed was not an increase in income, but an increase in self-criticism. The moment she started affirming her worth, every harsh judgment she'd ever made about herself rose to the surface. She felt like she was drowning in her own negativity. But this is the process. Before we can plant new seeds of worthiness, we have to clear the field of old weeds of self-rejection. Most people give up right here. They feel the resistance and interpret it as failure. But resistance is actually progress. It means you're touching something real, something that has been running your life from the shadows. When you continue practicing self-love in the face of internal resistance, you're literally rewiring your nervous system to accept abundance as normal rather than threatening. The three most common forms of resistance that arise when women begin claiming their financial worthiness are these. First, the guilt that says wanting money makes you selfish or materialistic. Second, the fear that if you get what you want, you'll become someone you don't like. Third, the terror that if you really try and still fail, you'll have to face the possibility that you truly aren't worthy. All three of these resistances come from the same source. They come from a fundamental misunderstanding about the nature of abundance itself. Abundance is not about accumulating wealth to feel superior to others. Abundance is about having enough resources to express your gifts fully, to care for yourself and others generously, to move through the world without the constant anxiety of survival. Place your hand on your heart again as I tell you this. Feel that steady beat. That rhythm is the rhythm of abundance itself. Your heart doesn't ration its beats, worrying that it might run out. Your lungs don't hold their breath, fearing there won't be enough air tomorrow. Your body knows that the universe is infinitely generous, infinitely responsive, infinitely abundant. If this understanding is beginning to shift something inside you, if you can feel the possibility that your relationship with money might actually transform, consider making a commitment to yourself by subscribing to this channel. Because this knowledge we're sharing is just the beginning. There are layers and depths to this healing that we'll explore together, but only if you're truly ready to let your old story go. Your financial reality is a mirror of your self-worth. When you see lack in your bank account, you're seeing a reflection of feeling lacking within yourself. When you experience the flow of money as erratic and unpredictable, you're experiencing your own relationship with deserving as erratic and unpredictable. The external circumstance is always the effect, never the cause. But here's what's beautiful about understanding this principle. Once you realize that your financial reality is reflecting your inner state, you have complete power to change it. You cannot control the economy, your employer, or other external factors. But you have absolute sovereignty over your thoughts, beliefs, and the frequency you broadcast into the world. This is not about pretending you have money when you don't, or denying real financial challenges. This is about recognizing that your worth as a human being is not determined by the numbers in your bank account, and that when you truly embody this knowing, those numbers begin to shift naturally. Now that you understand the foundation of how your beliefs shape your financial reality, We're going to build upon the heart-centered practice with 3 additional tools that will help anchor this new frequency of abundance into your daily life. These are not just exercises to do once and forget. They're establishing new rituals of worthiness that will gradually replace old habits of lack. The first practice is what I call grateful acknowledgement of what already flows to you. Right now, in this moment, money is already moving in your life. It might be the $5.37 in your purse, or the $23 in your checking account, or even just the penny you found on the sidewalk this morning. The amount doesn't matter. What matters is shifting from seeing money as scarce to seeing it as present. Every morning, before you check your bank balance with that familiar dread, I want you to find some money that's already in your possession. It could be loose change on your dresser, a dollar bill in your wallet, or even the quarters in your car cup holder. Pick it up, hold it in your hands, feel the texture, the weight of it. Look at it with fresh eyes, as if you've never seen money before. Now, instead of thinking about how little it is or how much more you need, say quietly, "Thank you for being here. Thank you for choosing me." Yes, speak to the money as if it were a dear friend who came to visit, because that's exactly what it is. Money is energy looking for a welcoming home, and you're learning to be that home. This practice might feel ridiculous at first. Your mind will want to dismiss it as silly or superficial. But remember, your mind is the same intelligence that convinced you that you weren't worthy of abundance in the first place. We're bypassing your mind and speaking directly to your energy field, teaching your entire being to recognize money as a friend rather than a threat. The second practice involves your relationship with your own reflection, because how you see yourself directly affects how money sees you. Every morning, after you've acknowledged the money that's already in your life, go to your mirror. Look into your own eyes, not at your hair or your skin or the parts of yourself you wish were different. Look directly into your eyes, which are the windows to your soul. Place your hands on your heart and say to your reflection, "I accept abundance easily and joyfully." Say it 3 times, once as a whisper, once in your normal voice, and once with complete conviction. Watch your face as you say these words. Notice any resistance, any urge to look away, any voice that wants to argue. Don't judge any of this. Simply observe it with compassion. Your reflection is showing you exactly where you are in your relationship with receiving. If you can't look into your own eyes while declaring your worthiness, it's simply information about where the healing needs to happen. Be patient with yourself. You're undoing decades of programming. Every time you practice loving yourself in the mirror, you're literally rewiring your brain to accept abundance as normal. The third practice is what I call joyful receiving visualization. And this is where we begin training your nervous system to feel safe when good things come toward you. Find a comfortable place to sit or lie down. Close your eyes and take 3 deep breaths. Imagine yourself checking your bank account and seeing a number that makes you smile. Not an impossible amount that makes you panic, just enough to make you feel genuinely happy and relieved. Now this is the important part. Don't focus on the number itself. Focus on how it feels in your body to see that number. Feel your shoulders relaxing, feel your jaw unclenching. Feel that warm sensation of relief spreading through your chest. Notice how your breathing becomes deeper, easier. This feeling, this body sensation of financial safety, is what we're cultivating. Practice receiving this feeling for just 2 or 3 minutes each day. You're not trying to manifest specific amounts of money. You're training your body to be comfortable with the feeling of abundance so that when it shows up in your actual life, you don't unconsciously reject it through fear or unworthiness. Let me tell you about Ezra, who started doing these 3 practices after her 3rd bankruptcy. She was 51 years old and felt like a complete failure around money. For 6 months, she faithfully thanked whatever money she found, looked into her own eyes while affirming her worthiness, and practiced feeling abundant in her body. The practices felt forced and artificial at first, but she continued anyway. The shift began subtly. Ezra noticed that she stopped avoiding her bank statements. Then she started finding small amounts of money everywhere. A $5 bill in an old coat pocket, $38 she'd forgotten about in a book, an unexpected refund check for $67.94. But more significantly, she started feeling different about these discoveries. Instead of thinking, "It's not enough," she found herself thinking, "How wonderful that money wants to find me." Within 4 months, Ezra's landlord offered to lower her rent in exchange for managing the building's garden, something she loved doing anyway. Within 8 months, she received an inheritance from an aunt she barely knew. But the real transformation was internal. Ezra described feeling like she had been living in a house with all the curtains drawn, and someone had finally opened them to let light in. As you begin incorporating these practices into your daily routine, you might notice that your old patterns try to reassert themselves. You might forget to thank the money in your wallet, or catch yourself avoiding the mirror, or find excuses not to do the visualization. This is completely normal. Change is not linear, and your psyche needs time to integrate new ways of being. Of the 3 practices I've shared with you, which one called to you most strongly? Which one felt like something you could genuinely commit to doing tomorrow morning? Which one made your heart speed up a little, either from excitement or resistance? Take a moment and really consider this. Your intuitive response is giving you important information about where your healing wants to begin. Don't try to do all 3 perfectly from day 1. Choose the practice that resonated most deeply and commit to that one for the next 7 days. Let it become natural before adding the others. Sustainable transformation happens through consistent small actions, not through overwhelming yourself with too much change too quickly. Remember, these practices are not about manipulating the universe into giving you money. They're about aligning your inner frequency with the truth of your worthiness so that when abundance flows toward you, and it will, you're energetically prepared to receive it with grace rather than reject it through fear. Now we're moving into deeper territory where the real transformation happens. The practices you've learned so far have been preparing your nervous system for this level of work, which involves facing and healing the specific wounds around money that have been running your life from the unconscious level. This is where courage meets compassion, where you begin to reclaim power you didn't even know you had given away. The 4th practice is radical forgiveness for every message about money that taught you that you were not enough. This includes forgiving your parents for their financial fears, forgiving teachers who made you feel stupid about money, forgiving society for teaching women that wanting financial security makes us greedy, and most importantly, forgiving yourself for believing any of it. Sit quietly and bring to mind the earliest memory you have of feeling ashamed about money. Maybe it was being told that money doesn't grow on trees when you asked for something. Maybe it was overhearing your parents fight about bills. Maybe it was realizing that your family had less than other families and somehow learning to feel responsible for that lack. Don't try to analyze or understand this memory. Simply hold it gently in your awareness while placing both hands on your heart. Now say, either silently or aloud, "I forgive you for not knowing better. I forgive you for passing on your fears. I forgive myself for believing I wasn't worthy of abundance." Feel the weight of this forgiveness moving through your body. This is not about condoning anyone's behavior. This is about setting yourself free from carrying their limitations as your identity. The 5th practice is what I call the abundance decree. And this is for those moments when your old programming tries to convince you that wanting money makes you selfish or shallow. This is a rapid reset tool that you can use anywhere, anytime you feel that familiar contraction of unworthiness around financial desires. Place your hand on your heart and say with complete authority, "My abundance serves not only me, but everyone whose life I touch. When I thrive, I lift others. When I prosper, I contribute. My financial well-being is a gift to the world because it allows me to express my highest self without the limitation of survival fear." Feel the truth of this statement. When you are not worried about money, you are more generous with your time, more present with your loved ones, more able to follow your creative impulses and serve others from a place of overflow rather than depletion. Your abundance is not selfish. Your abundance is how you become the most giving, loving, powerful version of yourself. Understanding the deeper mechanics of how guilt blocks abundance is crucial to your transformation. Guilt is one of the lowest vibrational frequencies in human experience, and money, which is pure energy, cannot flow easily to someone who is vibrating guilt about having it. Guilt about money creates an energetic contradiction. You're asking for abundance while simultaneously rejecting it as wrong or bad. Most women carry guilt about money that they're not even consciously aware of. Guilt about wanting more than your parents had. Guilt about having advantages others don't have. Guilt about enjoying material pleasures. Guilt about not being satisfied with what you already have. This guilt creates an unconscious program of self-sabotage that ensures you never have quite enough to feel truly secure. The moment you release guilt about deserving abundance, everything begins to shift. You stop apologizing for your desires. You stop diminishing your accomplishments. You stop making yourself smaller to make others comfortable. And when you embody this level of self-approval, opportunities begin appearing that were always there, but you were energetically closed to receiving them. You have complete power over your relationship with money, regardless of your current circumstances. You might think your boss controls your income, or the economy controls your opportunities, or your education controls your potential. But these external factors only have as much power as you give them. Your inner state of worthiness is the true determiner of what flows into your life. This doesn't mean you ignore practical realities or make foolish financial decisions. It means you stop operating from fear and start operating from faith. Faith that you are worthy of support. Faith that the universe is abundant. Faith that your needs will be met as you align with love rather than fear. Let me share what happened with Temperance, who had been struggling financially for 16 years despite being incredibly talented and hardworking. She had internalized a belief from her religious upbringing that good people should be poor, that wanting money was somehow sinful. This created a constant internal war between her desire for security and her fear of being judged as unspiritual. When Temperance began practicing forgiveness for these inherited beliefs, she experienced what she described as a profound relief. It was as if she had been holding her breath for 16 years and finally exhaled. She realized that true spirituality includes caring for herself well enough to serve others from abundance rather than struggle. Within 3 weeks of releasing her guilt about deserving abundance, Temperance received 2 new client contracts that doubled her monthly income. But more importantly, she stopped feeling ashamed about enjoying the money she earned. She bought herself flowers, ate at nice restaurants, saved for a vacation. She discovered that abundance made her more generous, not more selfish. The shift from fear-based thinking to love-based thinking around money is not just a mental exercise. It's a complete rewiring of your nervous system, your energy field, your entire relationship with receiving. When you truly embody worthiness, you become magnetic to opportunities, people, and circumstances that support your abundance. Practice speaking about money from this new place of worthiness. Instead of saying, "I can't afford it," try saying, "I choose not to spend my money on that right now." Instead of saying, "Money is tight," try saying, "I'm being selective with my investments." These subtle shifts in language reflect and reinforce your new identity as someone who has a healthy, empowered relationship with money. Your words have creative power. Every time you speak about money from lack, you're reinforcing neural pathways of scarcity. Every time you speak about money from empowerment, you're strengthening pathways of abundance. You literally think and speak your financial reality into existence, one conversation at a time. Understanding the journey of financial transformation is crucial because it prevents you from giving up during the natural fluctuations that occur as you shift from scarcity consciousness to abundance consciousness. This is not a linear process where you simply go from poor to rich overnight. This is a fundamental identity shift that happens in predictable stages, each with its own gifts and challenges. The truth about timing in this work is that while the shifts can be immediate and profound, integration takes patience and consistency. You're not just changing your bank balance, you're changing your entire energetic relationship with receiving, with worthiness, with trust in life's abundance. This happens in layers, like rings forming in a tree trunk, each one building upon the foundation of the previous one. In the first 3 days of this practice, what you'll primarily notice is a shift in your internal experience around money. The constant background anxiety about finances begins to quiet. You might find yourself checking your bank account less obsessively, or when you do check it, feeling less panic and more neutrality. You might sleep a little better, or notice that your jaw isn't clenched as often when you think about bills. This first stage is your nervous system beginning to remember what safety feels like. For many women, this is the first time in years or even decades that they've experienced money-related thoughts without immediate activation of their fight-or-flight response. Don't underestimate the significance of this shift. Inner peace around money is the foundation upon which all external abundance builds. By day 7, the second marker, you begin experiencing what I call recognition of worthiness. This might show up as catching yourself in the act of self-criticism and choosing a kinder thought instead, or noticing that you don't automatically assume you can't have something you want, or realizing that you've stopped making excuses for taking up space in the world. This is your self-worth slowly coming online after being suppressed for so long. During week 2, the third marker emerges as unexpected opportunities beginning to appear. This might be a friend mentioning a job opening, or someone offering to pay you for something you've always done for free, or an old debt being unexpectedly repaid. These opportunities were likely always present, but you couldn't perceive them because your energy was focused on lack rather than possibility. What's happening here is that as your inner frequency shifts from scarcity to abundance, you literally begin to notice different aspects of reality. It's like tuning a radio from static to clear signal. The clear signal was always broadcasting, but you weren't calibrated to receive it. As you embody worthiness, you become sensitive to opportunities that match that frequency. Week 3 brings the fourth marker, which is a visible change in how you relate to spending and saving. Instead of spending from compulsion or fear, you begin making financial decisions from centeredness and choice. You might find yourself naturally saving money without forcing it, or investing in things that truly serve your well-being rather than purchasing from emotional wounds. This stage often brings up the deepest fears, because as you start to accumulate abundance, your old programming gets activated. The voice that says, "Who do you think you are?" becomes loudest right before it loses power permanently. This is why so many people self-sabotage right when things start going well. Expect this resistance and meet it with compassion rather than fear. By the end of the first month, the fifth marker becomes apparent. Your new identity as an abundant person has begun to stabilize. People respond to you differently because you're carrying yourself differently. You speak about money without shame or apology. You make plans that assume abundance rather than scarcity. Most importantly, you trust that your needs will be met because you've experienced enough evidence that the universe truly is responsive to your inner state. This is where most people stop thinking they've arrived. But this is actually where the real journey begins. You've established a new baseline, but maintaining and expanding this abundance consciousness requires ongoing practice and commitment. The neural pathways of scarcity didn't form overnight, and the neural pathways of abundance require time and repetition to become your new default. Let me tell you about what happens when people try to skip these stages or rush the process. Bernadette came to this work desperate for immediate financial relief. She was 3 months behind on rent and facing eviction. She wanted to jump straight to manifesting large amounts of money without doing the foundational work of healing her relationship with worthiness. For the first 2 weeks, Bernadette practiced sporadically, always focused on the external results rather than the internal shifts. When she didn't see immediate changes in her bank account, she decided the work didn't apply to her situation. She abandoned the practices right before the natural resistance phase, convincing herself that she was being realistic rather than recognizing she was being driven by fear. Here's where most people fall off the path. They feel the temporary discomfort of old patterns being disrupted and interpret it as evidence that the process isn't working. But discomfort during transformation is like the soreness after exercise. It's not a sign of damage, it's a sign of growth. The resistance means you're touching something real, something that's been controlling your life from the unconscious level. The women who succeed in transforming their financial reality are not the ones who never experience doubt or resistance. They're the ones who feel the doubt and continue practicing anyway. They understand that consistency is more powerful than intensity, that showing up imperfectly is better than not showing up at all. Which stage of this journey recognizes your current experience? Are you in the early stage of nervous system calming, feeling the first whispers of peace around money? Are you recognizing your own worthiness for the first time in years? Are opportunities beginning to appear that you're finally able to perceive and receive? Comment below and let me know where you see yourself in this process. Understanding your current position helps you navigate the next steps with greater clarity and patience. Remember, this journey is not about perfection. It's about progression. Some days you'll feel abundant and worthy and completely aligned with financial flow. Other days you'll wake up in old fear patterns, checking your bank account obsessively and worrying about bills. Both experiences are normal and necessary parts of the transformation. What matters is not whether you have perfect days, but whether your overall trajectory is toward greater peace, worthiness, and trust in abundance. This is where most people are too hard on themselves. They expect to maintain the peak experience constantly, but growth happens in spirals, not straight lines. You'll revisit old patterns, but each time with greater awareness and quicker recovery. As we go deeper into this work, we must speak honestly about the specific obstacles that can derail your transformation if left unexamined. These are not external barriers, but internal patterns so deeply ingrained that they feel like truth itself. Understanding these obstacles is not about giving them more power, but about recognizing them clearly so you can choose something different when they arise. The first obstacle is what I call moral guilt about wanting money. This is perhaps the most insidious barrier because it disguises itself as virtue. You've been taught that good women shouldn't care about money, that spiritual people rise above material concerns, that wanting abundance makes you shallow or materialistic. This programming runs so deep that you feel guilty even for listening to this guidance about improving your financial situation. This obstacle manifests as the voice that says, "There are people starving in the world and you're worried about money?" Or, "Shouldn't you be grateful for what you already have?" These questions seem reasonable on the surface, but they're actually weapons of self-sabotage. They keep you locked in financial struggle by convincing you that wanting more is somehow wrong or selfish. The truth that dissolves this guilt is understanding that your abundance serves everyone. When you are financially secure, you're more generous with your time, more present with your loved ones, more able to contribute to causes you care about. Your struggle serves no one. Your abundance serves everyone whose life you touch, including those people starving in the world that your guilt uses to keep you small. The second obstacle is the fear of becoming someone you dislike if you have money. You look at wealthy people who seem selfish or disconnected, and you unconsciously decide that having money changes people for the worse. This fear creates an unconscious ceiling on how much abundance you'll allow yourself to receive, because your psyche would rather stay financially stressed than risk becoming someone you can't respect. This fear assumes that money has power over your character rather than understanding that money simply amplifies who you already are. If you're kind and generous now, money will make you more kind and generous. If you're selfish and disconnected now, money might amplify those traits. But money itself is neutral. It's energy that takes on the character of the person who holds it. The third obstacle is terror of failure after truly trying. As long as you hold back, as long as you don't fully commit to changing your relationship with money, you can always tell yourself that you could succeed if you really applied yourself. But if you give this process your complete effort and still struggle financially, you'd have to face the possibility that you truly aren't worthy of abundance. This fear keeps you in a halfway space where you're doing the work, but not completely surrendering to it. You practice the affirmations, but with a part of your mind remaining skeptical. You visualize abundance, but don't really believe it's possible for you. You're protecting yourself from disappointment by limiting your investment in the process. The fourth obstacle is loyalty to family patterns of financial struggle. On a conscious level, you want to be financially abundant, but unconsciously, you fear that having money will separate you from your family of origin, make you different from them in ways that threaten your sense of belonging. If everyone in your family has always struggled with money, success can feel like betrayal. This obstacle is particularly challenging for women who were raised in families where financial struggle was worn like a badge of honor, where hardship was equated with virtue, where having too much was seen as taking from others. Breaking free from these patterns requires tremendous courage because it means risking the disapproval of people whose love you've always wanted to keep. The fifth and deepest obstacle is unconscious self-sabotage when abundance begins to flow. This is perhaps the most heartbreaking pattern because it happens right when your transformation is becoming real. Just as money starts coming more easily, just as opportunities begin appearing, just as your new identity starts to stabilize, your old programming activates its final defense mechanism. Self-sabotage can look like suddenly making poor financial decisions, picking fights with people who are trying to help you, abandoning the practices right when they're working, or creating drama that distracts you from your success. It's your psyche's attempt to return you to familiar suffering, because unknown success feels more dangerous than known struggle. Let me tell you about Magnolia's experience with the third obstacle, the fear of failing after truly trying. After 3 months of consistent practice and significant improvement in her financial situation, Magnolia hit a wall of terror. She realized that if she continued to grow financially, she would have to give up the identity of being someone who struggles with money. That identity had been with her for 43 years. It was familiar, even if it was painful. For 2 weeks, Magnolia found every excuse to stop doing her practices. She told herself she was too busy, that the work was silly, that she was being unrealistic. But underneath these rational-sounding excuses was pure terror. Terror of outgrowing her familiar self, terror of becoming someone she didn't know how to be, terror of having to take responsibility for her power to create abundance. The breakthrough came when Magnolia recognized that her fear of success was actually greater than her fear of failure. This awareness allowed her to approach her resistance with curiosity rather than judgment. She began talking to her fear like a frightened child, reassuring it that she could be successful and still be herself, that abundance wouldn't change her essential goodness, that it was safe to grow beyond familiar limitations. All of these obstacles share one common root. They all stem from the fundamental belief that you are not worthy of having life be easy, abundant, and joyful. They are all variations on the theme that struggle equals virtue, that suffering makes you a better person, that you must earn love through hardship rather than receive it freely through existence. The dissolution of these obstacles doesn't happen through fighting them or trying to overcome them through force. It happens through recognition and gentle redirection. When you notice guilt about wanting money, you acknowledge it and choose compassion for yourself anyway. When you notice fear of becoming someone you dislike, you remind yourself that your character is determined by your choices, not your bank balance. Each obstacle that arises is actually an opportunity for deeper healing. Rather than seeing them as setbacks, you can recognize them as your psyche showing you exactly where freedom wants to emerge. The areas of greatest resistance are the areas where your power has been most constrained, which means they're also the areas where your liberation will be most profound. These obstacles are not permanent fixtures in your psyche. They are learned patterns that can be unlearned through practice, patience, and tremendous self-compassion. Every woman who has transformed her financial reality has faced these same challenges. The difference between those who succeed and those who don't is not the absence of obstacles, but the willingness to meet them with love rather than fear. As your inner transformation deepens and your energy begins to shift from scarcity to abundance, life will start communicating with you in increasingly clear ways that your healing is taking root. These signs are not coincidences or wishful thinking. They are the universe's way of confirming that you are aligning with your true nature, which is abundant, worthy, and supported. Learning to recognize these signs is crucial because your old programming will try to convince you that they don't mean anything, that they're just random occurrences, that you're reading too much into normal events. But abundance consciousness includes the ability to recognize when life is responding to your shifted energy with increasingly generous reflections of your new internal state. The microsigns appear first and might seem insignificant, but they're actually profound indicators of internal shift. You'll notice that you stop compulsively checking your bank account multiple times per day. When you do check it, you feel neutral or even slightly positive rather than immediate anxiety. You might find yourself speaking about money without that familiar tightness in your throat, or making financial decisions from calmness rather than panic. Another microsign is discovering small amounts of money in unexpected places. A $5 bill in a coat you haven't worn in months, loose change in your car that adds up to more than you remembered, a gift card you'd forgotten about, or an unexpected refund for something you'd written off as lost. Your rational mind will dismiss these as normal occurrences, but your awakening intuition recognizes them as the universe confirming that money wants to flow to you. You might also notice that conversations about money become easier and more natural. Instead of feeling embarrassed or defensive when financial topics arise, you find yourself speaking with clarity and confidence about your needs, desires, and boundaries around money. This shift in communication reflects the deeper shift in how you relate to your own worthiness to have financial conversations without shame. The medium-level signs indicate that your transformation is gaining momentum and beginning to affect your external circumstances in measurable ways. People start responding to you differently, though they might not be able to articulate what's changed. They sense a new confidence in how you move through the world, a different quality of energy that suggests abundance rather than lack. Opportunities begin appearing that seem perfectly aligned with your needs and desires. Someone mentions a job opening right when you're ready for a change. A client offers to pay more for your services. A neighbor asks if you'd like to house-sit their beautiful home while they travel. These opportunities have a quality of ease and rightness that's different from the strained, effortful energy you might have experienced before. You might also notice what I call money magnetism, where financial resources begin flowing toward you in small but consistent ways. People pay you back debts you'd forgotten about. You receive unexpected bonuses, refunds, or rebates. Services you need become available at exactly the price you can afford. It's as if the universe is fine-tuning its responsiveness to your new energy of worthiness and openness to receive. The macro signs indicate that your abundance consciousness has stabilized enough to create substantial and lasting changes in your financial reality. This is where you begin experiencing what most people would call real results, though every sign along the way has been equally real and meaningful. Your overall income increases through raises, new opportunities, or unexpected sources of revenue. But more importantly, your relationship with this increase feels natural and sustainable rather than surprising or temporary. You're not holding your breath waiting for it to disappear because you now understand that abundance is your natural state, not an aberration from it. You start making financial decisions from a completely different place. Instead of choosing based on fear of not having enough, you choose based on what truly serves your well-being and growth. You might invest in yourself through education, self-care, or experiences that feed your soul. You become generous with others not from obligation, but from genuine overflow. Perhaps the most profound macro sign is the complete transformation of your internal experience around money. You realize one day that you haven't worried about money in weeks, not because all your problems are solved, but because you trust in your ability to handle whatever arises. You've developed what I call financial fearlessness, not the reckless kind, but the kind that comes from deep knowing that you are always supported. Let me share what happened with Cordelia, who tracked these signs meticulously during her transformation. For the first month, she documented micro signs, finding a $20 bill in a book, receiving an unexpected refund of $38.47 from her health insurance, discovering that a subscription she thought she'd canceled had actually saved her $63 by not auto-renewing. By month 2, Cordelia was experiencing medium-level signs. Her boss commended her work in a way that had never happened before. A client offered to extend her contract for an additional 6 months. Her landlord decided not to raise her rent when everyone else in the building received increased notices. Each incident individually could be explained away, but the pattern was unmistakable. Month 3 brought the macro signs. Cordelia received a job offer from a company that offered her exactly the salary she had been visualizing, in a role that perfectly matched her skills and passions. But what struck her most was how natural it felt to accept abundance. She didn't feel surprised or guilty or afraid it would disappear. She felt like she was finally inhabiting the life that had always been waiting for her. Take a moment now, in stillness, to reflect on what signs you might already be experiencing but haven't fully acknowledged. Have there been small synchronicities around money? Opportunities that have appeared with unusual timing? Shifts in how people respond to you? Changes in your internal relationship with financial security? Sometimes we're so focused on what hasn't changed yet that we miss the profound signs of what is already shifting. Abundance often begins as a whisper before it becomes a song, as a gentle dawn before it becomes full daylight. Learning to recognize and celebrate the early signs builds momentum and faith for the larger transformations that are already on their way to you. The practice of acknowledging signs is not about grasping or forcing meaning where none exists. It's about developing sensitivity to the ways that life communicates with you when you're aligned with love rather than fear, with abundance rather than scarcity, with trust rather than control. This sensitivity itself becomes a form of abundance consciousness. We have traveled together through sacred territory, from the recognition that your financial struggles were never about money, but about worthiness, through practices that rewire your nervous system for abundance, into the deeper understanding of how your beliefs create your reality, and finally to the recognition of how life confirms your transformation through increasingly clear signs. This journey we've taken is not theoretical. It's not wishful thinking or positive psychology. It's a profound restructuring of your relationship with your own worth, with receiving, with trust in life's fundamental abundance. Every practice you've engaged with, every resistance you've noticed, every moment of opening you've experienced has been preparing you for this realization that your abundance was never in question. Only your awareness of it was temporarily obscured. You are the same woman who began listening to these words, but you are also completely different. Something in your energy field has shifted. Something in your nervous system has been recalibrated. Something in your belief system has been upgraded. You may not feel dramatically different yet, but I assure you that transformation has begun at levels deeper than your conscious mind can track. Let me tell you about Serafina, because her story contains the essence of everything we've discovered together. Serafina came to this work at 59 years old, after a lifetime of financial struggle that seemed impossible to explain. She was educated, hardworking, intelligent, and kind. Yet money had always been elusive, slipping away as quickly as it came, leaving her feeling perpetually behind and increasingly hopeless. Serafina had been raised by a mother who repeated constantly that they couldn't afford things, that money was the root of all evil, that good people don't care about money. By age 7, Serafina had internalized these beliefs so completely that wanting anything felt like moral failure. She spent 52 years unconsciously rejecting abundance to remain a good person in her mother's eyes. When Serafina first placed her hand on her heart and said, "I deserve abundance," her entire body convulsed with sobs. 52 years of suppressed longing, 52 years of denying her own worthiness, 52 years of choosing struggle to maintain an identity that had never actually served her. The grief was overwhelming, but underneath the grief was relief. Relief that she could finally stop pretending that deprivation made her virtuous. For 3 weeks, Serafina's old programming fought back with everything it had. She experienced waves of guilt, shame, and terror that felt almost physical in their intensity. There were mornings when she couldn't bring herself to do the practices, afternoons when she wanted to abandon the work entirely, evenings when she convinced herself she was being foolish and unrealistic. But something had been awakened in Serafina that couldn't be put back to sleep. Some part of her remembered what it felt like to believe she deserved good things. Some part of her recognized the truth that abundance was her birthright, not something she had to earn through suffering. Even on the days when she couldn't practice, she couldn't forget what she had felt in that first moment of declaring her worthiness. The breakthrough came on a Tuesday morning at 6:37, as Serafina was making coffee and watching snow fall outside her kitchen window. She suddenly understood, with a clarity that surprised her, that her mother's beliefs about money had never been true. They were just one woman's frightened response to her own wounds around worthiness, passed down like an heirloom that no one had ever questioned. In that moment, Serafina felt something she had never experienced before: complete, unconditional love for herself exactly as she was, combined with absolute certainty that she deserved every good thing life had to offer. It wasn't a thought or an affirmation. It was a cellular knowing, a fundamental shift in how she experienced her own existence. The external changes followed quickly. Within 72 hours, Serafina received a call about a part-time position teaching art to children, something she had dreamed of doing but never pursued because it seemed impractical. Within 2 weeks, her estranged sister reached out to reconcile and offered to help with some medical bills that had been weighing on Serafina for months. But the real miracle was internal. Serafina described feeling like she had been living in a house with all the windows boarded up, and suddenly someone had torn them all down and light was streaming in from everywhere. She started sleeping better, laughing more, making plans for the future. She bought herself flowers, not because they were on sale, but because they were beautiful, and she deserved beauty. Within 6 months, Serafina's financial situation had completely transformed, not through winning the lottery or inheriting money, but through a series of opportunities and synchronicities that flowed naturally from her new sense of worthiness. She started selling her artwork, something she had never considered before because she didn't think it was good enough. She moved to a smaller apartment that felt more abundant than her previous larger one because she had chosen it from love rather than fear. But more than the external changes, Serafina had reclaimed her power to create her reality through the quality of her thoughts and beliefs. She understood finally that her financial struggles had never been about the economy, her education, her age, or any external factor. They had been about her willingness to receive the abundance that had always been available to her. This is what's available to every woman who is willing to question the beliefs that have been running her financial life from the unconscious level. This is what happens when you stop arguing with abundance and start accepting it as your natural state. This is the transformation that begins the moment you place your hand on your heart and remember your fundamental worthiness. You have arrived at this moment not by accident, but by divine appointment. Your soul has been calling you toward this healing, toward this remembrance, toward this reclamation of your power to live abundantly. Every struggle you've experienced around money has been your inner wisdom showing you where healing wants to happen. The woman who worries constantly about money is ready to transform into the woman who trusts completely in abundance. She is ready to step out of survival mode and into thriving mode. She is ready to stop proving her worthiness through struggle and start expressing her worthiness through joy. That woman is you, and this moment is when your new life begins. We have reached the moment of completion, the moment when everything we've discovered together crystallizes into the truth that will carry you forward into your new relationship with abundance. This is not an ending, but a beginning, not a conclusion, but a commencement, not a final word, but the first word of a conversation with life that will continue to unfold in increasingly beautiful ways. Place your hand over your heart now and feel that steady, faithful rhythm. That beat that has never once questioned whether you deserve to keep living, that has never demanded you prove your worthiness to receive the next breath. Your heart knows what your mind has forgotten, that abundance is as natural as breathing, as automatic as sunrise, as certain as love itself. Take a deep breath and let yourself arrive fully in this moment. You have traveled through every obstacle, every resistance, every old belief that convinced you that financial struggle was your destiny. You have looked directly at the patterns that have been running your life and chosen love instead of fear, worthiness instead of shame, abundance instead of scarcity. Now we seal this transformation with words that carry the power to reorganize your entire energy field around truth rather than illusion, around abundance rather than lack, around your divine nature rather than your learned limitations. These are not just affirmations. They are declarations of what is already true, waiting for your recognition and acceptance. First, in a whisper, as if you are sharing the most sacred secret with your own soul, say these words: I deserve abundance in all its forms. Money flows to me easily and naturally because I am worthy of life's generosity. Feel these words moving through your chest like warm honey. Feel your body's response to hearing truth spoken with such tenderness. Now, in your normal voice, with the confidence of someone who has remembered who she really is, speak these words. I deserve abundance in all its forms. Money flows to me easily and naturally because I am worthy of life's generosity. Feel the vibration of certainty in your throat, in your chest, in every cell of your being. And finally, with all the authority of a woman who has reclaimed her power, with the force of someone who refuses to be small any longer, declare these words. I deserve abundance in all its forms. Money flows to me easily and naturally because I am worthy of life's generosity. This is my truth, my reality, my divine inheritance. Feel that declaration echoing through dimensions of your being that you may not even know exist. Feel it rewiring neural pathways that have carried old stories of unworthiness. Feel it activating codes of abundance that have been dormant, waiting for this moment of recognition. You are not asking for abundance. You are claiming what has always been yours. Now, in that same progression of increasing power, we establish your new identity. First, as a whisper, I am a woman of abundance. Feel the radical nature of this statement, how it contradicts every old story you've told yourself about who you are and what you deserve. In your normal voice, I am a woman of abundance. Feel this truth taking root in your nervous system, becoming part of your cellular identity, rewiring your relationship with receiving. And with complete authority, I am a woman of abundance. Prosperity is my natural state. I accept wealth with grace and gratitude. I am financially free. Feel this identity settling into your bones, becoming as natural as breathing, as automatic as your heartbeat. Do you remember the question we began with? Why lack of money is not about money, but about how you feel about your own worth. Now you have the complete answer. Money is energy, and energy flows toward what it recognizes as home. When you feel worthy, when you embody abundance consciousness, when you operate from love rather than fear, money recognizes you as its natural destination. Your financial struggles were never evidence of your unworthiness. They were evidence that you had forgotten your worthiness. They were your soul's way of creating enough discomfort to motivate you toward healing, toward remembrance, toward reclamation of your power to create abundance through the quality of your inner state. You are not the same woman who began this journey 60 minutes ago. You cannot be, because truth has a way of reorganizing everything it touches. The practices you've learned, the resistance you've faced, the recognition you've experienced, and the declarations you've made have all combined to shift your frequency from scarcity to abundance. If you have stayed with me through this entire process, if you have opened your heart and mind to possibilities that may have seemed impossible an hour ago, then you are already demonstrating the commitment to yourself that abundance requires. Consider making that commitment official by subscribing to this channel, because this work we've done together is just the beginning of what's possible when you truly embrace your worthiness. Tomorrow morning, when you wake up, you will have a choice. You can slip back into old patterns of worry and fear around money, or you can remember this moment when you declared your abundance and felt the truth of it in every cell of your being. Choose to remember. Choose to practice. Choose to trust that the universe heard your declaration and is already rearranging circumstances to match your new frequency. 21 days from now, I want you to return to this place and comment below with your victory. Not because you need to prove anything to anyone, but because celebration completes the cycle of manifestation. Share how your relationship with money has shifted, what opportunities have appeared, how your inner experience of financial security has transformed. For those whose hearts are moved to support this work by leaving a coffee in the comments, know that this is not payment, but energy exchange. You are planting seeds of generosity that will return to you multiplied, because the universe always honors the spirit of giving when it comes from authentic appreciation rather than obligation. But whether you leave a coffee or simply carry these words in your heart, you are now part of a community of women who refuse to accept financial limitation as their destiny. You are part of a movement toward collective abundance, where each woman's prosperity lifts all women, where individual healing contributes to collective transformation. Your new life with money begins now. Not tomorrow when conditions are perfect. Not next week when you've practiced more. Not next year when you feel ready. Now, in this breath, in this recognition, in this moment of choosing love over fear, you are abundant because life itself is abundant. You are worthy because existence itself is worthiness. You are prosperous because prosperity is your divine inheritance. Go forward now as the woman you have remembered yourself to be, the woman who deserves abundance, the woman who attracts opportunities, the woman who trusts in life's generosity, the woman who knows that her worth is not negotiable, her prosperity is not conditional, and her abundance is not dependent on anyone else's approval. It is done. It is finished. It is accomplished. Your transformation from financial fear to financial freedom has begun, and nothing can stop what you have set in motion through the power of your recognition, your choice, and your declaration. Abundance is your birthright. Prosperity is your truth. Financial freedom is your destiny. And so it is.